Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. The LA Clippers are currently 3-7 and they are 0-5 since the James Harden trade. And really offensively, they are struggling with James Harden out there on the court. So in today's episode of Mike Talk Sports, I'm going to be breaking down why Norman Powell needs to start getting more minutes over James Harden and why Norman Powell should be favored in those late game lineups, not only over James Harden, but over Russell Westbrook as well. Norman Powell is only getting 24.4 minutes per game this season, and that really has been the story of his career. Not that high in terms of minutes per game, yet his scoring output has been phenomenal throughout his entire career. He's a guy who's been a perennial 20 point per game scorer, but he's only cracked 20 points per game once in his career, again because of a lack of minutes. It has nothing to do with his efficiency and overall offensive production. So this season, he's averaging 13 points per game on 53% from the field, 45.5% from three on about 4.5 attempts per game, so a nice sample size, 61% from two as well. Now I get it, this has been a short season with a short sample size, so let's dive into the last 2 years on the Clippers for Norman Powell. He's averaged 18 points per game, again, not on that many minutes per game, which is very impressive, 47% from the field, 40.7% from three on 5 attempts per game. And I mentioned the efficiency stuff in the overall stats of Norman Powell because in my opinion, once you start pairing multiple guys on the same team who are used to getting 20, 25 shots per game, of course, every single one of those guys' shots are going to have to go down. So that's when you start to try to favor not only the players, but the superstar players who are very efficient. They're not high volume, low efficiency guys. And that's exactly what James Harden has been throughout his entire career. James Harden has been in the NBA since 2009, and he only even came remotely close to shooting 50% from the field in his last season in OKC, in which he shot 49% from the field. Other than that, he spent the vast majority of his career shooting below league average in terms of field goal percentage, and in terms of his scoring output, it really is volume over efficiency. And again, once you start playing with multiple star players, guys like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who absolutely should be shooting more shots than James Harden at this point, his lack of efficiency really is rearing its ugly head. And the same exact story can be told about his three-point percentage as well. He's always hovered around league average in terms of shooting threes, and the big positive of this during the middle of his prime, and the reason why people didn't say James Harden was an average three-point shooter, instead they said he was a well above league average three-point shooter, was really the level of difficulty on a lot of his three-point shots, again along with his volume. But this fact goes from impressive to outright annoying and useless on a team with multiple superstars. Again, they need a more efficient three-point shooter than James Harden, and James Harden really has not been a good off-ball catch-and-shoot three-point shooter really since his OKC days and really the beginning of his Rockets days. In the last 2 seasons for James Harden, he's averaged 21.5 points per game, so that's nothing crazy. It's not even like he's all that much better of a scorer than Norman Powell. In fact, you can probably make the argument that Norman Powell has been a better scorer the last couple of years than James Harden. If you disagree with that, I completely understand. But what I think is undeniable at this point is Norman Powell is a better complementary offensive player than James Harden is. Again, it's because of his off-the-ball movement. It's because of his catch-and-shoot prowess. And Norman Powell absolutely does not need the ball in his hand in order to score. He's very good at running the baseline, making really nice cuts to the basket. He still has a lot of explosiveness and verticality at the rim, something that James Harden absolutely does not have at this point in his career. So where's the big difference in terms of Norman Powell and James Harden offensively? Well, of course, it's the assists. James Harden is a significantly better passer than Norman Powell, but when you look at the construct of this team, you really don't need a 10 assist per game guy. Not only do you have Kawhi Leonard, who's a really nice passer from the post, especially when he can start making those mid-range shots around the free throw line, really drawing in the defense, and Kawhi does such a good job at spreading the ball around on the perimeter. But more importantly, you have Russell Westbrook, a guy who is just as good of a passer as James Harden, and honestly, at this point, Russell Westbrook's game has aged better than James Harden at this point. James Harden just lacks the separation necessary in order for his game to succeed on the offensive side. So in my opinion, if you start to play Norman Powell significantly over James Harden on the offensive side, especially in those late game lineups, it's going to open up the flow of the offense much more. You're going to have better off-ball movement, and you're going to have less stagnation in the offense. Not only this, but when it's late into the shot clock and you need a bailout three, you have Paul George, you have Kawhi Leonard, you have Russell Westbrook dominating the ball, dribbling around for the vast majority of the shot clock. I rather have Norman Powell take that late shot clock three over James Harden, especially at this point in both of their career. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, though, when it comes to Norman Powell, James Harden. In this entire Clippers situation, it really is the defense. Is Norman Powell going to help increase this defense on this team compared to James Harden? Absolutely not. I completely get it. James Harden is not a good defender at this point of his career, but neither is Norman Powell. Norman Powell is honestly extremely frustrating on the defensive side because he shows really nice verticality on offense and he shows nice burst and lateral quickness on the offensive side as well, but he looks completely flat-footed and outright unathletic when he plays defense. And in terms of his frame, he's a very undersized 6'3" shooting guard out there, so realistically, you only want him guarding point guards, but it seems as though he lacks the basketball IQ and he's overall just flat-footed as an on-ball defender, and as an off-ball defender as well, he's consistently getting caught sleeping for easy backdoor cuts and easy shots on the perimeter for three for the opposing team, whoever is being guarded by Norman Powell. Again, he's kind of a liability out there on defense. So if I had to officially predict, do I think Norman Powell is going to start getting more minutes on the Clippers? And do I think this is going to make their offense better? I absolutely do. Again, Norman Powell is a much better off-ball mover than James Harden, and he's a better three-point shooter than James Harden as well. But defensively, is this going to help them? No, it's not. I think their main problem on defense is honestly Ivica Zubac. He's getting absolutely abused in the pick and roll, and in my opinion, he's genuinely one of the biggest liabilities in the entire NBA in the pick and roll, and they really need to trade for a good defensive big man. And when you look at it like this, you can honestly see a future in which Norman Powell is unfortunately traded, and they're stuck with James Harden, someone who does not complement the other superstar players on this roster. Thanks for watching today's episode of Mike Talk Sports. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on Norman Powell, and do you agree with my take that Norman Powell is a better offensive player than James Harden, but at this point in both of their career, they're about a push in terms of the defense? If you enjoyed today's episode, smack that like and hit subscribe. I really appreciate it, guys.